Welcome to Don't You Two Read, a podcast where two sisters talk about all things books.
We're just two girls who found ourselves texting about books on a daily basis and thought, why not turn on a mic?
We'll be talking about our recent reads, a weekly bookish topic, and what we're looking forward to reading next.
So grab a cup of coffee and maybe even a snack and be prepared to take down your TBR and add a lot to it as we talk all things books.
I'm Hilary, and I'm a mom in Oklahoma, and I am over summer reading.
And I'm Hannah, a stay-at-home mom in Texas who has been in the biggest book funk this week.
This is episode 8 of season 1, and welcome. Today in the episode, we will be doing a deep dive into some of our favorite back-to-school book recommendations, and later we will talk about our short list. So, Hannah, how was your reading week? I guess you're not good again.
Yeah, it's been like off and on, I feel like for the last month. I still have not had a 5-star read in July. And I don't know. I think it's a mixture of that and like you mentioned at some point, routines being off, and I had a few that I probably should have DNF'd and I didn't. So, yep, they're just on a roll, but sometimes that just happens. How has your reading been?
It's been pretty good. I have had a few 5 stars this week or this month, but I am just done with my schedule is just all messed up in the summer, honestly. So I'm just ready for my routine again, which I like routine a lot. So I'm ready for fall.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, on that low note. All right, let's get into our recent reads then. Hannah, what's your first book?
For my first pick this week, I'm going with a book that is one of my favorite reads of all time. This is The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley by Courtney Walsh. Here's the setup. Isadora, a university researcher, keeps to herself as much as possible. She avoids the students she's supposed to befriend and mentor. She stays away from her neighbors and lives her own quiet, organized life in her own quiet, organized apartment. And she will never get involved in a romantic relationship again, especially with another academic. It will be just Isadora and her research forever. When she reads an article in a magazine which claims 31 steps to happiness, Isadora, being the researcher that she is, goes on a journey to disprove the theory. But as she completes each step, she finds herself feeling lighter and lighter, and also more confused than ever. Growth never comes without pain, and Isadora has so much to learn. Okay, this book is golden for me. The characters are so lovable, so relatable, even in all of their flaws. I would say especially because of their flaws. I found myself relating to Isadora in so many ways, the good and also in the bad. Courtney Walsh pulls you into Isadora's journey, and she almost pushes you, the reader, onto a journey yourself. It was touching, hilarious, adorable, and heartwarming. I came away with so much joy and an even deeper understanding of human connection. This one does feel very women's fiction-y and coming of age to me, but the romance is still there, and I found it very sweet. This book honestly has everything a book should have for me. It's rare that I read a book and there's absolutely nothing that I would adjust or change, but this one hits that standard for me. Also, there's the sweetest old man in this book that reminded me so much of Arthur from the movie The Holiday. And if you know who I'm talking about, then that should be enough to convince you to read this one. This is a book that I literally recommend to everybody. Whether you love Courtney's other books or not, whether you love romances or not, try this one and you won't regret it. Also, DM me and tell me all about it. If you enjoy found family, quirky characters, and books that you'll think about over and over again, pick this one up. And that's The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley by Courtney Walsh.
Yeah, this one was good. I remember reading it a while ago. It kind of reminded me of a better version of what is that book? Hang
I
on,
know
I'm gonna
exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about Oliphant or
Yes, Eleanor Oliphant is perfectly fine. Did you
yes.
read that one?
No, I DNF'd it. I tried to read that book like 2 or 3 different times,
Yeah, it's on a lot of like best lists.
Our aunt loves this book. And she's told me, she's like, no, you gotta try it, you gotta try it. And I have. I tried it like literally 2 or 3 times, and every time I was like, I can't get into it. It's just too, I don't know. Couldn't. Did you like that one?
It was not my favorite. I didn't hate it, but I was gonna say I feel like there's similar vibes, but I think the difference is, um, the Eleanor Oliphant is kind of a downer, like kind of
Yeah.
sad overall. And then without things like there, we don't see a lot of progress in her journey. A little bit, but it's just mainly a downer to me. This book we do like I think I don't think they explicitly say it on either person, but clearly the main characters have like some type of social I don't want to like I don't know what the medical definition would be, but it's definitely like slightly on the spectrum to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like not as aware of people's emotions. Um but it was a little bit happier of a tone with Courtney Walsh's than
Hmm.
Eleanor Oliphant was just kind of sad.
Yeah. This one was so, I just love it. I love it. And I always think about it. I'm like, okay, it's time for a reread because I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, I always recommend this one because I mean, I've never been wrong on this one. Like everybody that I've convinced to read it, they have said, "Oh, you're right. Like that was a really good one." I'm like, "Yes." Like if I feel confident about any book recommendation, it's this one. But yeah, so I started it off strong. What's your book one, Hillary?
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. My book one is Running Wild by K.A. Tucker. So I will just be in full disclosure. Hannah and I said we were like, we don't read, well, I don't read enough to not talk about almost every book that I read on the podcast. So this is something I've run into now is trying to talk about series, in a way that makes sense to other people. So we're gonna try it out. And so this is my best attempt. But join us as we try to figure this podcast out. So this is book three in the Wild series by K.A. Tucker. I chose to bring this one, book three, versus book two, because this is a completely new story from books one and two. So books one and two are about Calla, and then book three is like in the same world, but about a different character. This book follows Marie, who is a small town veterinarian in Alaska. She has experienced rejection and disappointment in heaps. When the man she loves marries someone else, she's devastated. She's in her upper 30s, and while she dreams of one day being married with children, she knows that her odds aren't looking great. When she meets Tyler, a charismatic and cocky musher, she is immediately skeptical of him, and they get off to a rocky start. However, this is a small town, so Tyler and Marie are thrown together far more than what either would prefer. We have forced proximity, small town vibes, and one bed. While you don't have to read the other two books, it does provide more insight into Marie's story. I'll be honest, Marie was not a likable character to me in the first two books, so I wasn't looking forward to her story. However, I did end up coming around to her. I really enjoyed seeing her character arc. I was texting Hannah that I really come to enjoy books about people in their 30s. Sometimes teenage love can grow tiresome, so I really love the mature nature of how Tyler and Marie courted, so to speak. When you're in your 30s, you don't have time to play around and you take things much more seriously. I love that Marie was vocal in what she was looking for. One thing I didn't like, and I feel like I'm going to talk about this with this book and then another book that I'll bring in the future. But one thing I didn't like was that Tyler was very unsure about his relationship with Marie. He was very tormented. No spoilers, but he had valid reasons. But he really dragged Marie along into his mess when he wasn't sure what exactly he wanted from her. It was kind of hard to watch her get her hopes up and then to be told, I can't do a relationship right now. There's quite a bit of yo-yoing. I guess that's personally like a thing I don't like, but I've noticed that I do struggle with books that include that topic. Or I don't know if it's a trope. We've talked about what this is called, Hannah. I can't remember. In another book that I had told you, the guy was like, I'm not interested. I don't want anything, but then would give her mixed
Oh,
messages.
Yeah.
Like he's acting into her, but then he's like, I can't have a relationship right now. I'm not into, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a little, and then you see the main character just get like disappointed, but still sticking around. I don't know. I kind of struggle with that. So just be aware if that bothers you, that that is part of this. But it is a valid reason, but there is quite a bit of that in here. Nevertheless, I really still like the book, and I hope to see more books with characters in their 30s. So let me know if you know of any books like that. Also, I think this is the last in the series, but I'm kind of sad. There are some more couple stories that I would love to read about. This has two open door scenes, which is one extra than the other book had. The scenes can be skipped if you want without losing too much information. So that's Running Wild by K.A. Tucker.
I've heard so many things about that book. What really stands out is I've heard that most people don't like Marie. People are like, no, don't like her and can't get past it because of the first two books.
Yeah, she's definitely like not a villain, but she's definitely not. The main character does not like her. That's why
Yeah.
you don't like her.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's interesting though to do like to turn around and do a book on that, on her. So I think that's
Yeah, you're
interesting.
like, "Oh, she's misunderstood." And I
Yeah.
love that she was in her I want to say she was like 37 or 38. So I kind of like it. I was like, that's kind of a different type. Usually we see people that they're like, "I'm 22."
Yeah.
And now I kind of like the little bit older.
That's because we're getting older.
I know. That's what Hannah said. She goes, it's because we're old, but I like reading about it with other people. Okay, so what's your next book?
Okay, for my second book, I'm bringing Jaws by Peter Benchley. This was actually on my short list on the last episode. So let's dive in. I'm going with the synopsis on Goodreads for this. This is a classic blockbuster thriller of man-eating terror that inspired the Steven Spielberg movie and made millions of beachgoers afraid to go into the water. Experience the thrill of helpless horror again, or for the first time. Isn't that synopsis just weird? I feel like it's weird to me. I'm wondering if maybe when this book was written, they didn't do like full
Hmm.
synopsises, like we do now, like blurbs, because I'm like, this is not even a blurb. If it's a blurb, it's mainly a blurb for the movie. But I will say, I wouldn't even know how to come up with a synopsis for this book other than we're dealing with a lot of terrible people. So let's just get into it. I do want to say my thoughts are going to get deep into the book, deep into the plot and all of the issues that were going on in the book. If you want to know absolutely nothing about this book, skip ahead because I can't promise that there won't be some, I mean, I don't even want to say spoilers, but, if you want to know nothing, skip ahead. I will say, I personally think everything I'm going to say is important to know going into the book because there's just a lot that you should probably have a heads up. And I don't think it would ruin your experience knowing either way. So there's my disclaimer. I want to start by saying me, my mom, and my sisters, we loved to watch shark movies growing up. Jaws was up there for us. So I was so excited to pick this one up and give it a try. I was thinking, okay, if I love it, I'm going to have my mom read it and we can discuss it together and all this. So if you're listening, mom, do not pick up this book. I will say, Storygraph told me that I would not like this one. And once again, Storygraph was correct.
What elements did it say you wouldn't like?
It said like dark themes. And when I clicked on it, it said animal cruelty was one that I have said that I did not want to read about. But there were many. There were like every reason. We'll get into it. I don't think that this book is written poorly. I just disliked almost everything that happened in the book. If it was written to show how terrible humans are, then I think it did that. I did search online after finishing the book to see, like, what is the moral of this book? Like, is there a deeper meaning? Is there symbolism? Some people said, oh, it's about fear. Other people said it's about nature. And then a lot of people said, no, it's about humans that are the ultimate predator. For me, the best that I can take away from this one is that it shows how flawed humans are and how deeply greed runs in our blood. Almost every character exhibited deep selfishness and greed. But beyond that, we just need to get into even more unfiltered thoughts. Okay, so there's several categories that I want to discuss. First, this book is pretty gory and gross. There's tore up bodies from the shark. There's limbs, blood, guts. It's just nasty. But the gore is probably the least gross thing to mention. Overall, it's just gross in all the ways. At one point, the police chief is dreaming of when he's in high school groping a girl in the stairwell. Or another time he's saying, "Oh, I'm married, but I feel things when I see the young blondes on the beach running and bouncing around." And then there's talk about teenage boys grinding into the sand to get their jollies. See, it's gross. But ultimately, I was disgusted by Ellen's behavior. Who's Ellen? Ellen is the wife of the police chief. And Ellen legitimately she says all girls fantasize about being a prostitute. And she specifically says that she fantasizes about being raped. There's a whole scenario she explains in detail. It's gross, guys. It's just gross. I absolutely do not want to hear about this, Ellen. Nobody does. Furthermore, cheating and affairs is also something I don't enjoy in books. Flirting with married people, entertaining flings, bleh, I don't like it. And it's in this book throughout the whole story. There's elements of prejudice, there's racist comments, which I also do not enjoy, there's mobs, animal cruelty, and almost every other content warning out there for this book. It's just a big yikes in all the ways. So, as you can tell, I just really disliked it. I would maybe feel bad about dogging so hard on this book, but let's be honest, Jaws became a multi-million-dollar franchise. It's still in theaters today. It's a household film. This book paved the way for shark movies and Shark Week and many other shark movies. So trust me, I'm sure nobody who was directly involved in making this book or movie cares that I really hated this book. Lastly, I don't know. I don't know that this would be considered open door necessarily, but there's enough explicit descriptions throughout that I would go ahead and just consider it as such. Check the content warnings on this. It's extensive. It's literally, I would say, every single content warning you can think of, it's there. If you love Jaws the movie and have been desperate to know how it compares to the book, and you're fine with every red flag that I mentioned, pick this one up. And that's Jaws by Peter Benchley.
You're like, if you like garbage, you might like this.
Yeah, I feel like I can mostly say, "Oh, this person would like this book." I really struggled with this. Like, I'm like, who? I I don't know. Beats me. So if you want to read it just so you can like commiserate, then great. I'm here for that.
Did you buy this at that Murder at the Book?
Yes, $18.
Well, my next book I also saw at Murder at the Book.
Ooh. Well, I hope it was better than mine.
It was better than that, but it wasn't 5 stars either. But I mean, that's a different note. Is it Murder by the Book? Sorry.
Yeah.
That bookstore is like the coolest bookstore. And if you're in the Houston area ever, you need to go check it out. It is the coolest. Like I could almost guarantee you'll find something that you like there. So, but not Jaws, something else. Okay. So my book today is Breaking the Dark by Lisa Jewell. And this one was on my short list. It's like one of the few. Hannah and I are going to have an episode soon going over our short list and then saying which ones we read and which ones we haven't yet. Okay. So this book is a mashup of the superhero Marvel universe and crime fiction. I was immediately intrigued whenever I saw this concept, and I knew I had to give it a try, even though I wasn't sure if it was the right fit for me. This book by Lisa Jewell is about the fictional character Jessica Jones. I'll start off by saying I have absolutely no idea about anything concerning Jessica Jones. All I know is from this book. I have read Lisa Jewell, though, several of her books, so that is why I picked it up. Jessica is a retired superhero after having traumatic experiences in the past. She now lays low and is a private investigator. One night, a troubled mother comes seeking her help. The mother claims that her two twins have come home acting very strange after visiting their father in England. Their skin is suddenly perfect, they don't talk the same or have the same little tics, and they're constantly staring into space. Though most people think the twins are just growing up, their mother is not sure. In fact, she is convinced that these are not her actual children. She believes that something sinister is afoot and wants to hire Jessica to investigate. Jessica then goes on a trip to England to uncover a darker mystery than she ever expected. Okay, I'm unsure how to review this book because I was into the whole story. I did want to keep reading to find out what happened to these twins. Like, did something happen to them? Are these imposters? Are these aliens? Are they like, I had no clue. And again, we're talking about like a superhero theme. So I feel like anything is on the table with that kind of premise. Um, but I did think the book was a little weird, and I wish I had a better word to describe it. Like I said, I know nothing about Jessica Jones, but if you did not tell me that she was a superhero, I don't think I would have known because we barely see any of her powers to show that she had any. I was a little bit disappointed about that, and I wish the author had leaned into that aspect. If you're going to do a book about superheroes, just go all in. There is a villain, as you would expect in a superhero book, but it felt kind of lackluster to me. Honestly, I feel like she tried to make the villain extremely Gen Z, and maybe that just did not appeal to this millennial. While I did want to keep reading, I did find the plot a little bit silly. The thing is, I don't think the book was trying to be silly, so that's what threw me off. The book wasn't very funny, it wasn't very dark, it wasn't very fast paced, it wasn't even that mysterious in the end. So overall, it was just okay for me. That's Breaking the Dark by Lisa Jewell. So it's just okay. I'm glad I tried it though, because you guys know I was excited. Anyway, okay, so what's your last book?
Okay, for my final book today, I'm bringing Mrs. Quinn's Rise to Fame by Olivia Ford. Here's the setup. Jenny is 77 years old and is about to celebrate 60 years of marriage to her lovely husband, Bernard. As she looks back on her life, Jenny wonders if she's really achieved all that much. In effort to squeeze every opportunity out of life, she enters a baking competition thinking there's no way she will ever make it. Well, she does, and so begins a journey of fun baking times with delicious descriptions of baked goods. But the journey isn't all sweet baking moments because Jenny has a secret that she's held on to her entire life that's starting to come to the surface. Okay, so in this baking competition, with every new bake that Jenny bakes, it takes her back to memories of her past. Through each bake, we see Jenny begin to process her greatest secret and trauma. So I'm going to just say this book is heavy. I went into it thinking this would be a happy, cozy book about baking, and yes, it is that, but it's also sad, and I personally felt like it did get quite heavy in several different aspects, and I do feel like that's important to know going into it. I've seen a lot of reviews say this was such a feel-good book, and I did enjoy the book, but I personally would not say I felt super happy or great while reading it. Specifically in the fact, like I said, heavy elements are discussed in depth, and there's also a lot of secrets in this book. There's deception and lying, and it made me so uncomfortable and made me really stressed out. I will say I was invested for sure. I was on the edge of my seat as all the secrets began to unravel because it basically felt like watching a train wreck in some ways. So, yeah, was I emotionally damaged? A little bit. But was I intrigued? For sure. I was entertained throughout the whole book. This is a debut novel, and I was honestly surprised and overall very impressed. I do want to mention that I read this book on my Kindle, but I also had the audiobook, so I did both, and I did notice that it was a little bit confusing if you are listening to it because any flashbacks and memories on page are in italics, so you could tell whenever it would flip back to the past. But on audio, you don't get that element. So there were a few times it wasn't super clear to me when I was listening to it. but I have seen other people enjoy audio regardless. I also want to say Benny or Bernard, she calls him Benny. The husband is like the sweetest, like he's the hero of the story for me. He was like my favorite part. If you're looking for a redemptive coming of old age story with lots of baking and some very heavy plot lines, pick this one up. And that's Mrs. Quinn's Rise to Fame by Olivia Ford.
I still really liked this one. I thought the view on marriage and like forgiveness, it was like perfect. But like Hannah said, go into it with like I would go into it thinking it's a book on marriage, like
Yeah.
older marriage, like decades of marriage. Like these two people have gone through so much life together, good and bad, and they're kind of like looking back because they've had more life behind them than in front of them.
Yeah.
So it was good. But like Hannah said, I would not go into it thinking I want something like super lighthearted. This is not gonna be that, I don't think. But it was still good. So just know what you're in the mood for.
Yeah. All right. What's your book three, Hillary?
Okay, my book three is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Avery Grams is a normal teen who has grand aspirations of going to college and making a life for herself. Having grown up in an unstable home, Avery longs to have family, money, and stability. One day, Avery Graham's life is forever changed when total stranger and multi-billionaire Tobias Hawthorne passes away and leaves his entire estate to Avery. What's the catch? Avery must live at the Hawthorne estate for 1 full year, and if she makes it, she can have the money. But she's not alone. Tobias Hawthorne's angry and bitter family is staying with her too. The house is full of mazes, secret passages, riddles, lies, and drama. This book was so much fun. I read it so freaking fast. I ordered the next book before I even finished the first book so I could jump right in. I wanted to bring this one today because I think it's a really good book for fall or like leading up to fall. And if you'd like it, you'll have several more books you can immediately jump into. Also, the latest book is already out. It came out this week. So I'm so excited to get into that soon. One complaint I've seen on the series is that it's fairly dramatic and juvenile. I'll agree because it is young adult, not adult. So we have teenagers, and they're kind of dramatic and annoying, but the puzzles and mystery make up for it. There's some possible romance, but there's no spice at all, so don't worry about that. This book is great if you love fast paced books, short chapters, word games, and puzzles. That's The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes.
Have you read them all?
Yes.
Me too.
Besides the new one that came out like today.
Yeah, I was looking at that one because I was like, is this continuation? Is this a spin-off? Like I was looking into it because I was interested and I'm on the wait list.
You're caught up all the way?
Yeah. I think it's like a spin-off.
It's kind of getting crazy. Like the last one was kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's still like watching The Bachelor to me or Big Brother or Survivor. You're like, yeah, these people are crazy, but I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed all of them so far enough that it's like I would recommend them. Like, it wasn't like it took a nosedive and I'm like, well, I don't want to even recommend them at all. Like I think it was fun throughout the whole series.
Yeah, and she's an Oklahoma author, so I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so let's get into our topic of the week. This one we actually have quite a bit to talk about. We're going to talk about back to school book recommendations, not like textbook. This won't do you any good, in the classroom, but books about like school and the school setting and stuff like that. We thought this would be the perfect time to talk about it because a lot of states right now, like people are going back to school. I know we are in Oklahoma and in Texas, they're going back to school. I think this week that the episode airs. So yeah.
I'm excited. And that's the thing too. We have like a variety. So it's not just like school, like high school. We have several different types. We got creative.
Okay. So Hannah, do you want to start us off with our back to school recommendations.
Okay, guys, it's always a good time to read Harry Potter, and back to school is such a perfect time. I love this one because Hogwarts is the school that all of us wish we would have gone to. September 1st marks the start of term at Hogwarts, and seeing Harry get ready for school every year just gets me excited about school in general. Even if you've seen the movie, even if you've read the book, pick it up for a magical time.
Yeah, I think this is like the perfect time to start your read or reread. And I'm not going to stop recommending Harry Potter because I know like we'll assume everyone's read it, but not everyone has read it. And if you haven't, now is the time. This is like the perfect time to start your journey. And okay, so if you have read Harry Potter and you're looking for something similar, I would like to recommend Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is middle school, and again, we have a magical school, but we have a female protagonist. She's about 12, and so we're talking about in that age range. So we have magic and a school. We have a kid who she has a family, but they're not, overly involved. So a lot of similarities, but it was written somewhat recently. So I really like this one. And I think it's worth adding to your list if you liked Harry Potter.
And sometimes middle grade is also like cozy when you're our age, like it's a different vibe.
Yeah, and you can get through it really quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's go to high school. I love so many of Casey West's books because they are what I would say is age appropriate for YA. They're very cute high school romances that give me all the happy feelings, even in my 30s. Some of my favorites by her are On the Fence, P.S. I Like You, and The Fill-In Boyfriend. All of them have the setting of high school, and all of them are great if you want that high school romance vibe. Have you read anything by Casey?
No, that's what I was saying. I still have not.
They're so cute. This is honestly where I started my romance, like reading as an adult. People share her books on Pinterest. And so I literally read, I think probably every single book, which she has a lot. And I haven't met one that I didn't like. So they're very cute.
I'll have to try those. Okay, so the next one I'm going to share is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She's the author we just talked about with the Inheritance Games, but this was a series that came before, and it's about gifted teenagers. They all have like different types of gifts, but they are like recruited by the FBI to help solve cold cases by serial killers. So like think Criminal Minds kind of, but for teenagers. I've only read the first book so far, but there are more and I plan to read them. But it was really fun. So this is like very backlist, so um it's a good one. It's interesting.
Yeah, those came before the Inheritance Games, right? Like she wrote them before that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she completed the whole series, so it's pretty backlist.
Okay, still in high school. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is another romance set in high school that was still very enjoyable to me as an adult. This book has a lot of romance movie references, which I loved seeing, and it made me feel very nostalgic. And I also think that element is what makes it relatable, even if you're not in high school, is that you're gonna probably catch a lot of those rom-com movie references because you probably watched them growing up also. I like this one for back to school vibes because you get that high school ambiance and like the angst and the falling in love for the first time, all of those vibes, you get it with this book.
Yes, that one was excellent. And there's a sequel coming up soon.
I'm excited. I'm gonna do a reread for the sequel because I guess the next one is them in college, and I really like Lynn Painter,
Mm.
so I'm excited.
Okay, my next one is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I love this is a good one. Another boarding school. Obviously, I have a thing for boarding schools in my books, but it's like a boarding school in the mountains and there it's just like mystery, like a long mystery, like 3 books, and they just go into the whole story, and it's just a little bit creepy, but not scary, and these teenagers are trying to solve this crime. Again, like a long crime that happened in the school years ago. It's a lot of fun. Short chapters, really just very fun.
Yeah, those are fun. I like those a lot too. And I like to like with some creepy content, I feel like I enjoy YA better because I'm like, I don't want to get too scared. And so that one, yeah, it's yeah, creepy but still not too scary.
You'll be able to sleep, and it's good for a teenager.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. If this hasn't been on your radar in the past, it probably is now because it's coming out on Netflix, which it will be out by the time we post this episode.
Yeah, so I loved, like, this is one of my all-time favorite books. I am very excited. I'm excited that the Netflix series is coming out, and Hannah and I already said that we're gonna read the book and then watch the show and then do like a special bonus episode maybe around the holidays. Um, just like with spoilers and comparing and contrasting the two. So if you guys want to do that with us, like put this on your list, reserve it, hold it. You have plenty of time, but we're excited. This is about Pip, and she's a high school student doing like a project for her school, and she's investigating on her own a local crime that happened in her town. And so we just follow her, like questioning her neighbors and the teachers, and she definitely gets into some trouble. This book was one of my favorites. I loved it.
Yeah, I liked it too. It reminded me of Serial, the podcast.
Yes, yes. It's a multimedia, I think. You have like
Yes.
if you go, I'm curious. Hannah's gonna said she's gonna do it by audio, and I'm gonna do it on print. So I'm excited to talk about those elements too. But I've heard it's good on audio because it's like a podcast. Like she's recording like notes, voice notes, and then PDFs, and you can even see, if I recall correctly, like paperclip marks in the book.
Yeah.
It's very thoughtfully done. Okay, so now we're going to talk about thriller back to school books. So these are not YA like the last ones we were talking about. These are for adults. These are like thrilling, spooky, definitely those type of vibes. So the first one I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to be talking about these because I'm the one who reads more thrillers and mysteries and stuff. So my first recommendation is For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. So I wrote in my notes, I had to look, I read this quite a while ago. I wrote, this is Chilton, but make it murder. And so I just think, I don't know that I have to say a lot more than that. That's all you need to know. Chilton from the Gilmore Girls, like the series, but make it murder. So we're talking about a high school, but like a prep school, all those vibes of like the brick buildings and the teachers, and you don't know who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. But I also made a note that it's not a scary one. So if you want something like fall vibes with back to school energy, but not scary and like super dark and creepy. I mean, it's a little bit dark because it's a thriller, but not extreme, not on the far end. Try this one because I thought this book was a lot of fun. And then the next thriller I wanted to talk about is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is just dark academia in college. I listened to this one. Um, it's very like what I just said, the college, and we're talking about a dark theme and like kind of like, is it a cult? Is it not a cult vibes that you don't know, like this secret society? You don't really know what's going on in this college. So that I listened to that and it was a good audio, I thought. And then the last thriller is one I have talked about on the episode already. It's The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Very, very sick and twisted. But if that's what you're into and looking for, I had to mention it, The Teacher. So that's that one too.
Gross. It's like back to school, but make it gross.
If you like teachers abusing their power, then you would like The Teacher.
Okay, speaking of teachers In a totally different direction, I have Compared by Courtney Kiesel. This is a rom-com about a teacher and a single dad, and his son is in her class. And so Hillary read this one recently. I read this a long time ago and I loved it. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And Hillary read it recently. But I like this one because it gave me a forbidden romance feeling without freaking me out too much. Like I said, Meg is a teacher, so there's like that conflict of interest. Like she's actually not supposed to be with him. So you definitely have forbidden. But then like his son gets to know her and they bond. And I don't know, it had a lot of really cute elements. And because she's a teacher, I do feel like that played into the plot a lot. It's closed door. It's rom-com. It does have some heavy elements, but like she did it in a light way that like I didn't feel like it was like a heavy read by any means. But if Hillary, if you have anything to add, you can add anything else.
I like this one. I thought it was a really light, very quick. Oh, I did this one on audio too, and I got it on Hoopla. And I thought it was kind of unique the way they did it because they had um two narrators and it was good.
Okay, so now we're going to get into college. I have Love and Other Goals. Talked about this on a previous episode. I like this one because it is a wholesome college romance that fully captures the chaos that comes during college when you're a new student going into college, like that weird in between high school, like you're not a kid anymore, but you're like just becoming an adult where you're studying all the time, you're trying to make friends, like trying to still be involved in whatever groups you're trying to do, you're trying to find your own path, like all of that chaos that comes during that season of life. I feel like Tracy really captured that very well in this book. This one is closed door. Yeah, I really liked it. And then the last college ones, Hillary has not read these yet. I don't know that I say yet. I don't know that she I don't know
I
that
was
she
like,
plans.
yet.
If you're looking for a college hockey romance series, I have two. The Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. This is a spicy open door option. It's like the wild version, I would say. And if you're looking for a closed door option, the St. Cloud Hockey series by Mary Loyal. I think is a good alternative. College is very much the backdrop in both of these series. There's parties, there's studying, there's lots of hockey. So both of those series are guaranteed a great time if you're looking for like that college wild experience.
Fun fact, my sisters and I give Hannah a hard time because she's like a hockey romance like lover. That's like her thing.
I do. I'm like, sue me.
I just think that's so interesting. So I know we send each other reels and we're like, oh, it's Hannah.
Wow. I am really determined to go to a hockey game, like in real life, because all of the romance books have convinced me. You can go ahead and laugh.
No, I mean, like, if you have any hockey recommendations for Hannah, then send them her way.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to find something in this list that, gets you in that back to school. The good, I know some people aren't looking forward to going back to school, but the good part is we have dark academia, we have middle grade, romance, thrillers. If you have any back to school book recommendations that you liked, then let us know because we are always game for something else. So, on that note, let's talk about the short list. Um, I know you've been reading a lot of you've actually been reading your short list, unlike me. So, what is on your short list for the week?
Okay. I have Four Weekends and a Funeral by Ellie Palmer on my short list. And I mean, I say it's on my short list, but I requested this and I think I'm like 10 weeks for the estimated arrival. But I'm really excited for this one. It was recommended to me by Bookish by Renee, who I love, and she messaged me and told me that this book has great tension, that it has heavy emotions, that it's set during fall and Christmas, and that it's closed door. She said that she read it, she loved it, and immediately thought I would love it too. So I'm very excited to check it out. I literally don't know anything about it other than what she told me. So I'm excited. What's on your short list?
The book on my list is The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. Have you heard about this one? I think you've maybe seen the cover there.
Oh, yes, the bubbles. We saw that when you came shopping.
Yeah, okay. So I have to read the synopsis for this because it's just hilarious. So you can get a taste of what I like. A recently deceased woman meets the one in the afterlife waiting room, scoring a second chance at life and love if she can find him on Earth before 10 days are up. If she wasn't dead already, Delphi would be dying of embarrassment. Not only did she just die by choking on a microwavable burger, but now she's standing in her shine like a star nightie in front of the hottest man she's ever seen, and he's smiling at her. As they start to chat, everything else becomes background noise. That is, until someone comes running out the door, yelling something about a huge mistake and sends the dreamy stranger back down to earth. And here, Delphi was thinking her luck might be different in the afterlife. When Delphi is offered a deal in which she can return to Earth and reconnect with the mysterious stranger, she jumps at the opportunity to find her possible soulmate and a fresh start at life. But in a city of millions, Delphi is going to have to listen to her heart, learn to ask for help, and perhaps even see the magic in the life she's leaving behind. Um, it just sounds wild, but I will say the girl you like, Sarah from Kerosene Lit, right?
Yeah.
She really liked that one, but I've seen a lot of people actually really like it, but it reminded me of, I don't know if it's going to be like this at all, but it kind of reminded me of Just Like Heaven, like the
Yeah.
2000s movie with Reese Witherspoon. Um, that's what I'm hoping, and I got it. I got it from the library, just did. So
Oh,
for real, I'm for real going to read it. So this is not like a me just randomly doing bookish roulette. Like I'm planning to read this one.
you have to. You're
I
locked
know.
in, which I don't know. Sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's not. Well,
I'm going to read it.
you'll have to let us know how it goes.
Yeah. I'm like choking on a burger. I'm in.
Oh my. Yeah, I need to know. I need to know if it's like silly or not
Oh yeah, because you
because
don't like Billy.
I don't know, but choking on a burger sounds wild. So yeah,
Well,
we'll
but I don't
need
want her to be like, oh, you know what book you liked? The Afterlife of Holly Chase. She died. How did she die? Getting hit by a bus?
yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
I
that's not
mean,
silly.
no, I'm like that sounds pretty serious to me. That's enough.
Who knows what this episode's going to be like? I feel like it's just a mess, but oh well.
No, it's fine. I literally thought I didn't hit record though, so
Yeah, you did. If you've made it this far and didn't add this episode to your DNF pile, thanks a bunch.
that brings us to the end of this week's episode for the Don't You Two Read podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing about our recently read books and hopefully getting to know us better as we begin this podcast journey with you guys.
We will be including timestamps in the description on every episode so you can check there for books or products that we mention in today's episode.
Be sure to tune in to our next episode when we will be chatting about all things books. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Don't You Two Read Podcast, and you can find me at Hannah Reads.
And I'm at Hilary Reads. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take a moment to follow us? You can also rate and review us wherever you listen. And as always, please share this with all of your bookish friends.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, we hope you have a magical week filled with 5-star reads.